All right, gang, today I want to talk about Bitcoin and why I still believe that we are putting in a local top. I think it's increasingly important to talk about because I see a lot of hype, a lot of FOMO, a lot of talk about 120, 150, 200K price targets this year, and I'm just not buying into it quite yet. So there's three reasons I think we've potentially topped. One is severe FOMO, and you will hear people say, oh, but retail's not in this cycle. And they'll show you the chart of Google Trends right here, where retail hasn't hit some peak of Google search volume. I don't care. That is old mentality, is old thinking. It's past cycles. We've seen that happen. And things tend not to work over and over and over, especially when people catch on. The FOMO that's actually really happening in real time is corporate level FOMO. We see that with Bitcoin treasury announcements or adoption, a Bitcoin treasury standard adoption from companies like GameStop, from companies like Metaplanet and Cantor Equity Partners. We've seen more and more and more of this. Donald Trump's media group just announced $2.5 billion for fundraising to buy Bitcoin. It's so overdone, trite, boring, and it's silly at this point. You can't take a garbage company and make it valuable and interesting just by buying Bitcoin. Michael Saylor did that. All right, it's been done. We've jumped the shark. It's just overdone right now. And you have to wonder, like, how many, I joked on Twitter today, how many more Bitcoin treasury company announcements do we need before we can go to all-time highs, right? It's just gotten a little bit sad and pathetic at this point. It's like you can't take a company like GameStop and yay, it's cool now. If we look at what GameStop is doing today on the announcement, like just selling off because nobody actually cares, right? It's just hype. You're not going to be important just because you announce that this is your new strategy, right? On top of that, you have companies going further out on the risk curve saying, we are going to be an Ethereum treasury company. And I was like, really? That's what you want to be? It doesn't make any sense to me. Ethereum's been a dog this cycle. It has been grossly underperforming. You'd be silly to put that on your balance sheet and hold it long term. But the reality is these companies don't care. They just want attention and they want to grab your money and they want to enrich themselves. And it's kind of the music's about to stop playing. All right. Second, in terms of FOMO and stuff, we have Circle, I think, announcing that they are going public, the stablecoin. Red flags here. We have the Bitcoin conference happening right now with our Vice President, JD Vance, speaking soon, I think today. Red flags. It's just like, I can see a future not very far out where we look back and say, wow, there were a lot of top things and it was so obvious. Well, here's me telling you that it seems extremely obvious in the moment. So that's number one. Lots of FOMO from the corporate side, Bitcoin treasuries, IPO from Circle, and the conference happening right now. It just seems like a very convenient meeting of a bunch of silly top signals. Second, let's just look at the technicals here. This is the Bitcoin chart. I'll start with the daily, and the line I have drawn here is 109,358. This is Coinbase chart. It is the all-time high print from January 20th, 2025. We tried to get above that here recently, and we came right back down, literally the next day. And we have failed to close above that line every day since. And now we are selling off. That's important. And a lot of people say, hey, we're just building energy to go higher. And blah, blah, blah. My counter to that would be, again, how many Bitcoin treasury companies do you need to buy to crack that level? And not just crack that level, check out the volume. When we bump this out to the weekly chart, this is the volume that you're getting here. Declining volume on an all-time high break. That doesn't excite me. It shouldn't excite anybody. It should be a huge red flag. Beyond that, we're seeing bearish RSI divergence on the weekly. Okay, I understand these are more than 14 periods apart. A lot of people don't care, but you can argue either way. The reality is, when you couple the RSI divergence and the lackluster volume, you have a very mediocre breakout. It's not exciting. It's not like here where we saw this, volume come in, beautiful breakout. That's generally what we're expecting to be. In fact, it's very reminiscent people keep pointing to this, or some people I see, and a lot of people want to ignore it. It's very reminiscent of 2021, where we very briefly made this new all-time high on, look here, very little volume compared to what we were seeing previously, right? And we had the same kind of setup with declining RSI into that second peak. And then we sold off for quite a while. I mean, it was years. The top was in and we didn't find a bottom for, this is 52 weeks. That's a year, folks. And to get back to all-time highs, let's put this in perspective. Another 122 bars, weeks, it's over 2 years, okay? The technicals don't look attractive to me on a higher time frame basis, whether that's daily or weekly. You could argue going out to the monthly. Let's take a look at what that looks like. And, it looks interesting, right? It looks like your standard consolidation and breakout. Again, I'd argue we're about to close the month. There is zero chance RSI gets a higher close here. So we've got RSI divergence on the monthly, which is scary as F, right? Could we push higher next month and put in a higher RSI? Sure, maybe. But I think there's real danger, given what we're seeing on the weekly and the daily, of going lower. And when we look at lower timeframes, this is what I've been looking at on Twitter here on the hourly. This is our line, our 110, 500, where we should have, in theory, we should have broken higher from this consolidation, this all-time high consolidation. We broke down with solid volume, strong candles, consolidated, and we've been going sideways. And I've got this lower range bound drawn, and I'm using this 110, 500-ish as the upper bound. And I said last night on Twitter, chances are we break down through this, bounce here in this range, maybe a little bit, and then continue right down. So I would not be surprised if that's what we get. A little type thing, and further down. So that's what I'm expecting right now. And I have my levels that will invalidate that thesis, particularly the 110, 500 area. Getting back above this area would be entering back into the chop zone. But the reality is we've now seen 3 hourly closes below the 200 moving average, the 200-hour moving average. And you've got the 50 and the 100 kind of curling over and about to cross over that 200. And once that 200-hour moving average rolls over, it's just more resistance to get through to get back to those all-time highs. I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm just saying the odds right now are stacked against that outcome. Again, we've got the FOMO from corporate level and the Bitcoin treasury announcements and Circle going public. We've got technicals. And then we've got, and I'm not going to cover this too much, but we've got the canaries in the coal mine here. MicroStrategy has been rolling over for a week, right? Coinbase is rolling over today. These companies are generally, I guess Coinbase hasn't been so much this cycle, but MicroStrategy tends to be higher beta than Bitcoin. Bitcoin tends to be higher beta than equities, right? So when you see these names rolling over and showing weakness rather than strength, that should be a red flag. So again, I tweeted something today like MicroStrategy rolls over, Coinbase rolls over, Bitcoin. And then if you want to take a step further, QQQ. Again, I'm not going to get into the technicals of this, but when we look back at MicroStrategy, when everyone was freaking out, MicroStrategy never made a new low. It never broached these lows from March 10th over here a month later, April 8th and 9th, right? Bitcoin, March 10th, April 8th, definitely made lower lows before heading higher. So what I'm saying here is MicroStrategy was the signal that we were bottoming and it went higher. Now you have to think of it in the reverse. MicroStrategy never made higher highs. In fact, it didn't even get above the high that it made on May 9th. What did Bitcoin do? May 9th, we were way down here. We made that higher high. MicroStrategy did not. MicroStrategy didn't even broach the high from November. So I'm looking at this and saying, this is my third piece, right? We've got the corporate FOMO, we've got the technicals on Bitcoin, and we've got the canary in the coal mine here with MicroStrategy being a higher beta play. It's rolling over, it's rolled over. And now you have to consider, okay, if that's telling me, if the higher beta stuff is rolling over or has rolled over, what does that mean for Big Daddy Bitcoin? You can make your own conclusion, and I've made mine. So I hope that helps. this is what I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at areas to find a bottom. I think if we break down this level, who knows where the next logical support area is in this 102 to 105 band. How does price react there? I don't know. Do we continue falling? I don't know. I will take that as it comes. I will look at the information as the market provides it, and we'll do another video if you guys like this. Until then, appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and find me on Twitter.